Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I know a lot of the people don't like drama here, but this isn't even about drama at this point. This is doing something that I absolutely should have done a long time ago because this has gotten so far out of hand because of this silly nonsense that it has allowed a lie to be perpetrated to the point to where members of my family have actually had death threats. People that I care about have actually lost their jobs due to the insane amount of cyber stalking, the terroristic threats, and everything involved. And I presented just a little clip up above from the report from my local police department blocking the deputy's name out because I don't want him to get death threats, and showing the reference back to the FBI as the primary investigator there so that people can see that yes, there is actually law enforcement involved and the FBI is actually involved. I'm not making any of that up. That's how bad this stuff has gotten. And essentially this whole campaign run against me has been perpetrated based upon Layne Norton claiming that I threatened his family. And I want to show that to be patently false. And I'm going to break that down because there's some elements of it that people didn't even bother to look at with this massive outcry they started against me. First of all, I want to show that there's evidence that Layne hated me going as far back as 2013. All that stuff he posted right there that you guys see above, all that hatred up there was actually posted even before I made my fake natty video about him, all the way back in, I believe, like late 2012. And it is pretty ironic with the tens of thousands of dollars he admittedly spent pursuing me that he actually said that I wasn't worth anything and that no one would ever remember my name, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on to spend $35,000 just in legal fees after me. I mean, I find that pretty interesting alone. And then you guys will see that he was even talking about all the way back in 2013, long before this alleged death threat, that I was going to get what was coming to me and it was going to be really expensive. So his malice existed long before any such death threat was even being thrown around out there. And if you look at the date on that, it's near the end of 2013. He's already talking about threats against his child there, calling the police. This is almost a year before the alleged threat he started throwing at me, and he was telling everyone back then that he had to sue me because Jesse Calderon had threatened his child. So he's already establishing a pattern of threats against his family somehow being my fault because I called him out on his research and the fake natty thing. I mean, and he already had a vendetta against me. He was already trying to blame me for threats that he knew and everyone else knew that I didn't even make against his family. So that being said, knowing he had a history of using that sort of thing to create outcry against me publicly, there is absolutely no way I would have dared give him further ammunition to destroy me with, even as a joke, as a prank, using sick humor. There's absolutely no way I would have given him that type of additional ammunition when that had already been his rallying cry against me. That's what he had already used. Like, why in the world would I give him that type of additional ammunition? So I'm going to keep this slide through here for most of the rest of the video. But yeah, this is the threat that is being levied at me. People keep trying to say that, well, we have evidence it came from your account. I don't understand the evidence that people are trying to present of that. It never came through anywhere through my Facebook feed that I could see. Now, I will state that I was not the only person who had access to my Facebook login at that time. My ex-wife was a bit emotionally unstable, but I don't think that she would have posted that. So I don't want to accuse her of that, even though my Facebook had been logged in on 3 different computers at the house and was accessible. I honestly and truly don't think she would have typed that either, even in her own instability. So I don't want people to think I'm trying to blame that on her because I honestly don't think she would have done that, all things considered. But I know that I didn't type it, and I've never seen any evidence that would lead me to believe that it had been posted from my Facebook account ever. Nothing that would convince me of that would make me understand that. So I don't even know if there was a hacker involved. I don't know if it was just a clever catfish account, a clone account. There's plenty of those out there. I don't claim to understand what's going on there or how any of that works. All I know is I didn't type it, and I never saw evidence later through my own Facebook account that I had been involved in that thread that it was attributed to. And none of it came through my feed ever. So I don't have an explanation there, but I know I didn't type it. But let's look at the actual nature of this threat. First of all, it's talking about risk of deportation. I want to show you guys something. I already was a permanent resident of the United Kingdom, and minor law breaking would not have ever gotten me deported. I had already obtained an indefinite leave to remain as a permanent residency and permanent settlement in the United Kingdom all the way back in January of 2014. This alleged threat was made in September of 2014. And the thing is, had I broken any of the court's orders, the gag orders against Layne, those were the equivalent of like we would think of as misdemeanor offenses inside the United States. The worst case scenario, the worst thing they could have done to me was given me up to 7 to 14 days in jail for violating the gag order. That absolutely would not have gotten me deported. So whoever even typed that didn't even understand my legal situation. I was already a permanent resident of the United Kingdom, and I actually still am. I can legally return and own a property and a house there at any time that I want. I have a valid indefinite leave to remain. And so let's look at this thing that everyone is calling a threat. Now that it's actually there, let's actually look at what this individual typed under my name. Let's just throw benefit of the doubt out the door. Let's assume that the worst case for a threat is that you say something to someone's face and there's video evidence recording it, that you're right there in person, not on the internet, not any of that. Had I been at an expo and I said in front of Layne, with him 10 feet in front of me, the exact words in this phrase that have been attributed to me, with cameras rolling, with cameras recording, and he took it to the police, I would absolutely not be charged with a threat, because there is no actual legal threat in there. All right, it's saying I was in the middle of training for international competition. I wasn't planning on doing more international meets at that point. I had just finished, that's the 24th of September. I did the British Nationals on the 31st, and I had already announced publicly I was not going to do Worlds. And I had already talked with my loved ones and had said that, hey, I know I'm talking about maybe doing a few more meets later, but I think I'm actually done with competition. But I clearly was not in preparation for any sort of international meets. I had already pretty much announced I wasn't doing Worlds, so what meets would I be prepping for? What international meet would I even be preparing for that I would be worried about missing the 2 weeks? There was a public announcement that he had that I could do 2 weeks in jail. People knew that if I had violated the gag order, but there were no other international competitions coming up that I was scheduled for, signed up for, or was going to do any time for at least a year. So this is absurd, first of all. Secondly, it's stating an if-then, that if I did something, that the result would be that I would have to take some sort of revenge in the form of harming people. Okay, well, the problem is that the first part of the conditional statement was actually prevented by me, that if I did this, this could be the consequence. Well, that would be like saying, hey, I don't want to walk into that bar where that guy I really hate is, because I know it would result in me popping him in the nose, so I'm not going to go in that bar. And then you would accuse that person of threatening to pop that person in the nose. No, they didn't take the action. There is no threat. There is no legal threat. This sounds to me like someone basically trying to make a sick joke about harming someone's family. This is dark humor, morbid humor, but this is not a threat. There's a conditional statement in which the person has said, I don't want this consequence to happen because that's what I think I would do. So I'm going to not do part A so that part B doesn't happen. That's not legally a threat. So everyone who's trying to attribute this line to me needs to understand that even in the most extreme situation, had I jumped up and publicly said this line to Layne's face with video cameras rolling, recording me saying it, there is not any legal threat being made. That is a conditional statement being made in which the prerequisite has been prevented by the person. So not only did I not say any of this or type any of this, and that's what we've been arguing all this time in the past, but no one who's made these accusations has even looked at the statement to see, well, if he had even said this to his face, in person, in public, would this even be legally a threat? And the answer is no. This is not a threat at all. And yet Layne has used this as his motivation to come after me, to spend thousands and thousands of dollars coming after me. And this has been the rallying cry of the people who have stalked my loved ones. This is the reason that they justify it as this alleged threat that, one, I didn't make, and two, had I even made it, even to his face, this isn't legally a threat. The stuff that we've gotten, that we've received, are threats. If you had saw what people are claiming they're going to do to my girlfriend while they make me watch before they murder both of us, that constitutes threats. All right, that constitutes threats. They are, when we find you, this is what we're going to do. All right, there's a little bit of a difference there. I've actually received real threats. My loved ones have received real threats, not this sort of silly bullshit. And these are to the point to where we have actually gone to the FBI, we've gone to the authorities. You guys saw the little card up front, so you get the idea. If I was such a threat to Layne, he would have gone to the feds. He would have gone to the FBI and presented his evidence like I've done against the people who are threatening me. He would not have provoked me. This man has absolutely not shown the behavior of someone who is scared of an armed individual with a collection of weapons, who has a new car, who could drive anywhere they want in the country, who they think is trying to harm their family. All right, he has not displayed any of that. Instead, his behavior has been to publicly provoke me, to humiliate me, to antagonize me, while talking about karma and me getting what I deserve with all this stuff going on. Well, what this has resulted in is real threats against my loved ones. If you, Layne, were actually scared that I was going to harm, or I had any intentions of harming your family or harming you, you know what weaponry I own. You absolutely wouldn't be trying to antagonize me. You wouldn't be trying to anger me. You would not have said these things to try to get me to take action. If I was as crazy as you claim I am, in fact, Layne, if I was half as crazy, half as violent, and half as dangerous as you have painted me to be in the public eye, I would have done this a long time ago. I would have gone and done those things if I was even half of the evil scumbag that you have tried to portray me as. But you know what, Layne? I don't kill women and children. I don't threaten people's women and children, and I sure as hell have never harmed a child. I've never even spanked a child, and yes, I had an ex with children. I have never even laid my hand on a child in anger. So anyone who's trying to accuse me of threatening their children and using that as a rallying cry, you're so full of shit. You don't know anything about me if you think that I would actually harm somebody's child. And at this point, Layne, I would be worried if I was your wife that there's someone who you think is a dangerous armed psychopath with a big catch of AR pattern rifles who you pulled records knows used to shoot in 1,000-yard competition, that you're antagonizing him over and over because he threatened your family. If I was your wife, I would be checking out right now if you went and took out a bigger life insurance policy or something, because that's the behavior of a man who, if he really thinks someone is a dangerous armed psycho out to get his family, the last thing he would do is be provoking them. If anything, that's a sign of someone who is actually trying, hoping to get his family killed. I don't know, did you take out a big life insurance policy on her in the last year? I really have to wonder with your behavior, because that is absolutely not the behavior of someone who's in fear of his family. My actions have been those of someone who's in fear of their loved ones. I've gone to the FBI multiple times. I've gone to the local authorities. I've been inside the FBI building this year over this stuff. Those are the actions of someone who's actually afraid for their family. You need to learn the difference. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I just wanted to put this out there and get this off my chest. So I will talk to you guys next time.